Hello, everyone. Nice to have you. We can see a new perfumer to the channel here, Abdullah.
Hello, everybody.
Everybody knows him from Mellifluence. So good to have you.
Thank you. Great to see you, Brandon.
Yeah, you too, Alex, Abdullah. You don't mind either one, right?
I don't mind either one, whichever rolls off the tongue the easiest for you.
I'll be switching it up. I'm gonna switch up.
Yeah.
And then you don't know this. We had a live stream Saturday, and your name keeps coming up like crazy.
Okay.
We had a guy talk about number 25 and like number 16.
Okay. I think 25 is Junos. An iris kind of oriented. I did 4 in a theme: 25 A, B, C, and D.
Wow.
16. Yeah. I don't even remember number 16.
It might have been a different number. I don't know what it was, but I saw the number. I was like, oh, they're showing off.
Yeah. That's like 7 years ago. But thankfully, I've had some customers that have like kept with me all that time. It's really nice to have that, community from the beginning.
You've been doing this 7 years?
8 years now, really. But I think at 7 years, I've started to put things on eBay initially, little things I made and things I was buying and selling. And then gradually the attas that I was making took over. So I think about 5 years ago, I started on Etsy, and it really blew up a lot more then.
Wow. And then what was your first attar ever?
Sorry?
What was your first attar ever?
First one ever, I believed it was called Bamina, and it was a kind of woody theme that had really interested me, like patchouli, vetiver. I came from aromatherapy and had a lot of aromatherapy oils, and I wanted to make a real, like, something that reminded me of the forest. So I think Bamina was the very first, if I remember rightly.
Were you into oud and oils like that when you first started?
Yeah, I think oud inspired me a lot. I didn't make attas before I'd smelled oud. So the first time I smelled oud, I think that triggered something in my brain to be like, right, this is going to be, with the aromatherapy background I had and mixing that with oud, I thought it would just, bring so many possibilities for interesting blends.
That's funny. That's close to my path as well.
Oh, okay.
Even though I went through all these perfumes, I was into you call it aromatherapy. I had my own muscle healing thing, but never cared about smell, just the healing aspects of it.
Yeah, yes.
I mean, I remember the day I smelled oud for the first time, and there's nothing like it. Like
that's it. Yeah,
couldn't.
I think
change.
It almost like it's like a seed planted. It's kind of you smell it and things trigger off in the mind.
Like it,
yeah, for real.
Okay, what people don't know, and I think we're going to try to do a full series out of this as well. Alex reached out to me on a comment and said, hey, I would do a live with you. And I instantly private messaged him. I'm like, you don't need permission ever. You anytime, your channel, my channel is your channel for sure. He is putting together what I personally think, I haven't told him this, and I don't think he would ever say it about himself, one of the greatest book on naturals we're going to have that's been released, at least in a 10-year period. So we're going to kind of, I know, look at him, get nervous. No, it's awesome what you're doing. And in Brandon style, I tried to break it down. How can we present? We're not going to present the whole book, but how can we present and help Abdullah and get insights with what he's doing. And this is going to be an overview talk today, but we're going to have materials just random and pick them randomly and just talk about them. The whole point of it is not hitting the best of the best materials. It's about showcasing that there are so many naturals available and talk about what those are. Did I say that about right? You talk about the book too, please.
Yeah, sure. I mean, this book was really something that almost came organically. I have so many oils now that I needed a way to categorize them. And I really wanted to learn more in depth about every single oil. So I know the medicinal benefits, the aromatic qualities, what it pairs with. So it was almost started like a catalog for myself. And then I thought this is a really good way to help other perfumers and other people who are just stepping into aromatics to see the depth there, and for a guide for people to go through aromatics, as well as there's a lot of advanced materials and very rare materials in there that are quite new to the scene. So I hope to kind of update some old books, but also do my own take on it. So I have a kind of theory about scent, and I'd like to put that forward. And this is really just my understanding of scent. And it's not the one correct understanding of scent. It's out there to help people, see how somebody looks at scent very in a personal way.
What about like a perfumers? I'm starting to get a ton of people hitting me up starting perfume. How are you going to be able to? Because obviously you have materials, and it's kind of where I've done the study now, and I'm a bit above this, but they're starting out how to bridge scents, like when you use it for top base or this scent. I mean, these compounds are perfect, like a scientific kind of, versus, this might all smell good together, but that'll get muddy. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Speak on that. Will that help the book help that way?
Yeah, I hope to do that, because what I want to do is put the qualities of each material in a way that's almost, it's very visually educational. So when you look at it, there's some kind of almost gimmicky qualities I want to put into it, like the rarity of a material, the thickness of a material, the variations of the materials. Some are CO2 extracts, some are essential oils, absolutes, macerations, things like this. And then you see, it can get so complex if I go into how each one can interlink with another, but I want to have a category in there where you can discuss a bit how it blends with another material and how it is most commonly used and its kind of special effects that it could have. For example, like oak moss can be used like very sparingly as a base in kind of fougere, green forest blends. Or you could kind of use it in a contrasting way with like florals or resinous blends. That'll give a different effect. So I hope to discuss like how they're commonly used and then how they can be used in unique ways as well. I don't know if I would cover exactly that. I suppose it's a really interesting aspect to add in, because I want it to be a perfumer's guide as well as a encyclopedia. An olfactory encyclopedia for people to look through.
Perfect. Well, people don't know this, but I did an unboxing of yours, and I just put the ones out. So I'm just going to take just for today, just a couple to keep going here. I hope I probably didn't. So I did. Of course, I didn't bring it. Olive, your olive absolute. You know about that? Remember that one?
Oh yeah.
Oh, here it is. So
very material. Mm-hmm.
Go back.
Cool. Yeah, that's an older one. Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Does this one go bad at all?
Not that I notice. I've had an olive absolute for about 4 years, so absolutes tend not to go bad. But I would say perhaps there's a period, maybe. It's quite a long period, I would guess, like 50 years or so, until you might. And every material is going to be unique. So if you have like something with a lot of volatiles in, it's going to change a lot more than something that's quite fatty, waxy material. And I don't think that'll change too much over time. But it's all observing. When you have kind of 300-400 materials, you just have to observe patterns, what happens when things age.
Right. Because an olive oil will turn pretty quick.
It will, yes. Yeah. It'll oxidize over time.
And this is like a pungent really good olive oil to me. That's
very nice. It's olive oil's got quite a subtle scent, so it's kind of condensed that scent into like you get a little bit of citrus almost, kind of airy. It kind of reminds me of like a Mediterranean warm day. There's an element of ozone in there.
We'll see what one I dropped.
Yeah.
Well, that'll be the next one. Oh, this is a good one to talk about. I haven't revisited this one for a long time. Black Cypress 2012.
Oh, okay. Blue Cypress, is it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
This one changes color over time. So it starts off blue. I think the compound in it is gluazone, something like that, if I remember rightly. That gives it its blue color. I think it's a sesquiterpene. And once it gets to about 1 year old, maybe 18 months old, it'll change from blue to a green. And then at maybe 3-4 years old, it'll change to a brown color. Quite like blue oud does the same.
Oh, yeah. Unfortunately.
Yeah. Yes, it doesn't keep its color for a long time.
I would love to have like a sandalwood with blue oud perfume with that color, but yeah, it changes.
Yeah, yes. It is a shame it changes. And
so in full disclosure, I just bought a Black Cypress before this phone call. That's what that was before this video.
Oh, okay.
Black and white and blue.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Yeah.
We'll see if
I really like to do that as well, like buy all the variations and notice the scent in between the different varieties.
I think blue's my favorite, though. I mean, I own this.
Yeah, it has it.
You still have this one?
I don't think I have it in stock. No, it's sold out. That one was from 2014, and that one all sold out.
So
and I have not restocked it.
Make all your oils or 50-50? How do you do that?
So no, I buy a lot of my oils in. So the business initially is me buying oils in and then reselling some. And then I was starting to make attas with them. The attas took over, and I still kept selling the oils that I would source to other people. So they have the materials. They know the materials I make the attas with. They can buy those same materials. And then only more recently, I started making more of my own materials. So absolutes mostly, and resinoids, things like this. Basically getting tinctures, kind of letting them mature, filter them, evaporate them down to kind of their like sticky oil. Sometimes it's a resin like labdanum or frankincense or myrrh. Other times like tobacco goes to from 100% of a tincture down to 3% of a thick resinoid that's usually very fragrant. But these take a long time to make. They take a long time to mature. It takes a long time to get all of the water out. Sometimes you have to add alcohol back into it to make it usable again, because some of them are so thick or almost turned to stone like a dust. So then they have to be ethanol added again. So basically you're just purifying the raw material and then diluting it again to make it a very clean perfume material for use.
What would you say the longest one or two you have going on right now?
Right now, an interesting one's bee pollen. Have some bee pollen tincturing. I've not made this into an absolute yet. I did make a rooibos tea absolute recently, just as a little experiment, and that went really, really nicely. And the other one was ambergris. It's got one of the best. I think the best results from this resinoid method of extraction, because the scent is just so much more than the raw material when you start with it.
Now we can cut this out right here, or is there a chance we could have you show the ambergris process?
Yeah, sure. So this is kind of the final piece. This is an ambergris resinoid, kind of a little hard to see. It's quite waxy. It actually melts in the hand. Really, really fragrant. But the raw material that you start with is almost like a stone. I have small amounts here left over from the tincturing process. So this is actually the same ambergris from that resinoid turned into. So that's the kind of chalky stone. It's kind of delicately fragrant, ozone, salty.
Is that the first process of it, or is that?
So this is unprocessed.
Okay.
This is unprocessed. Okay. Then it goes into the ethanol, crush it up, goes into the ethanol, leaving that for a year ideally. Then pouring out the ethanol into a container. This one I don't often filter because it doesn't matter if some powder gets in, it'll actually initiate the process of kind of like, it's not a crystallization, it's like it turns to a fatty mass once it gets reduced so far. Almost like maybe the soap making process, it goes into this really fatty, waxy mass. Then you heat that up and it'll split into two. It'll split into an oil and water and alcohol that were left over from the tincturing process. And then you have to evaporate that off again with gentle heat. Then it'll turn to a wax at the bottom, and that's basically the end result here. I haven't added ethanol back in. That would make it into a ideal perfume ingredient where you can just take drips. This you actually have to work into an oil, but it gives a really, really nice result when you do that. That's sorry?
You selling that?
Not yet, no. I only made a small amount. This took about an ounce of ambergris, white ambergris tincture, about 2 grams. It wasn't a really big experiment, this, and I was left with about 1.5 grams. So it almost translates to the same weight.
Because it's pretty pure already. I mean,
yes, yeah. So you take out the water content, the kind of the body of it, the stone kind of element, the matter, and you're left with just the oil.
That's quite the process for it. So that took over to do that.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's fascinating to go through it, and the end result is really rewarding as well when you get it.
Wow, we need to get you hooked up with an ambergris company so you can do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to do this big now. This is the first experiment that went really, really well. I've done previous ones and they were nice and they were usable, but this one, it's like eventually I feel like I perfected that process of getting it to a solid material again and just very pure ambergris wax.
You crush your ambergris, hammer and like towels or wax paper?
Pestle and mortar usually. If it's smaller pieces, just a knife often does shaving it. Bigger pieces, maybe a hand grater. They work quite well as well if you have a big lump of it. You'll see Russian Adam did on some of his videos with a big hand grater. He has like
I remember seeing
bits of ambergris as big as your fist. And
the blue cypress gives off a really good petrichor air to it.
Yeah.
Really wet.
Yeah, definitely. It reminds me of like a kind of forest after rainfall, like you say, the petrichor element. It has that ozone quality to it.
You remember this one?
That one is 1992 Indian Patchouli. Yeah, really nice, very clean, woody patchouli. It's hardly any floral notes, if I remember. I've run out of this one now, so you have a rarity there.
Oh, it's so clean.
Yeah, it's very like a minimal note. It doesn't. Some patchoulis, they have like a wide. How to phrase this best? Like a wide array of notes, whereas this is very minimal. It's like a stream of just clean woody elements to it. Yeah, it's very nice.
Very perfect. That's a good one. You, I reference a lot of people. My early subscribers will know. I did a big patchouli thing when I first started because I didn't know what patchouli was, so I went and bought all patchouli fragrances on the market. And it's the first time I realized, like, what the heck? These are all this. They all smell the same. They all soapy on my skin. I really dove into skin chemistry.
Yeah.
And, of course, they're all using the same synthetic.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a new synthetic out that a couple perfumes use now that just came out in 2016 or something. I forget the name. It was in a review, but I just went through them and I'm like, and then I ordered from you, like the World Sampler. I don't know if you remember that or not.
Oh, yes, yeah. Yeah, I think it was 10 different patchouli oils.
Yep. It was the first time. Then I was like, what? And so in every patchouli video, I'd hammer these guys. I'm like, what's the point of going to buy a synthetic when you can make your perfume so much different?
Yeah.
Than everybody else's. It's feelable.
Mm-hmm.
And you just blew my mind. And that gave me the reference of there's so much more in perfume.
Yeah. And those naturals are a real inspiration for a lot of my perfumes as well. The inspiration comes from smelling the raw material and then thinking, right, like how can I make this into like a full-bodied scent with more, color to it. And that's really like my inspiration. So much of it just comes from the material itself. Whereas I think a lot of other people, those big perfume companies, they take surveys, they look at what people want, they take like a broad spectrum and then they narrow it down to, okay, this one is the most popular and it's just a very common patchouli. And because most people's noses, I don't think, are so educated with the real materials that they just smell it and they say, oh, this is what patchouli smells like, and accept it.
Yeah, it's sad.
Mm-hmm.
That rose was the first ingredient that I really like. Oh, that's perfect with patchouli. It's just a good mix.
Yeah.
Then vanilla, obviously. And then I realized that the vanilla thing was literally been done. Somebody found a perfume that was before this one, but Amen by Mugler, which I like to credit the who came out with something original, came up with the first, sweet patchouli, vanilla, and it's been copied by. If you go look at people's houses, they all have a perfume with that structure in there.
Yeah.
I don't know what you call that.
Yeah.
Gourmand fougere. I don't know. But it's
I'm not so. I don't kind of. I don't put a lot of my effort into looking into what other people do or what is commonly being done before. I tend to focus entirely on just inspirational scents that make my nose kind of perk up.
And it shows. It's funny how we all have this different path to get to these naturals. Like, tell me, like when I dove into oud and started doing my oud videos, it was just fun watching me, even though I didn't know nothing and they knew years more than me. And now I see that when I see these other people coming from designer fragrances and smell oud for the first time, and they start to smell it more and try to describe it. It's really fun to watch people, but we all have this.
It is, yeah.
That it took to get there. I mean, you were aromatherapy DJ. Mm-hmm. Mine was from muscle stuff and whatnot, and I smelled oud. My whole designer thing is in my mind, I don't like people when they say this smells the best or whatnot. So I'm like, fine, I'll go smell it. I'll smell everything.
Yeah.
And now I'm coming back around. I'm done with that. I've smelt their stuff, and there's just no comparison to naturals.
Yeah. There's so much like life in naturals, I find. And when you make perfumes with all natural materials, you can just smell the life, the vibrancy in them. And it's the same with other perfumes. For me personally, they smell kind of dead. They don't smell alive. And that's a thing that always keeps me to naturals, is that just beauty in the reactions that happen between those different scents and how they evolve and how they inspire the mind or induce a mood as well.
Absolutely. And there's science. I've had people talk to me. There's science that there is energy from naturals, because the plant literally has energy to grow, right? Sunlight and everything. And then we're capturing that energy into something and we're putting it into our body. And I still have people to this day that I think it's common sense. And they mention, they're like, can our bodies really drink this stuff? And I'm like, yeah. I mean, we're porous in everything.
Uh-huh.
And it is like a food.
Yeah, there's a it is. In Islamic tradition as well, it holds a really big importance for the soul. They mention there's a certain scholar, he's called Ibn Qayyim al-Jawzi, and he said that the soul is fueled by the Quran and good smells. So it showed like the kind of importance between just good smells. Like in the Islamic tradition, smell holds a really high state, and I think it's something that our senses have become quite detached now, and we don't really smell truly. And I think it's we discussed a little last time that the sense of smell is almost one of the last things to awaken in a person. And I think, like you described with Arga-wood, when you smell that's that awakening almost taking place when you smell that real. But some people recoil from it. Some people, it's too much for them. Their nose is so accustomed to synthetics that it's such a big gap between that kind of synthetic scent and the real, raw, like untamed scent of oud.
It's almost like you have to be open to it and ready for it.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, and the further I get into this, it's sad how almost we're talking about scent and what it means to cultures, but in American culture, how scent has influenced it. I grew up wanting to go to the malls all the time when I was little, right? Teenager, whatnot. I look back now, and there was scent in the malls the whole way. That's why I always refer to all design and other natural perfumers like, oh, I'm going to use that now. I'm like, please do. I'm like, it's mall air, isoe, ambroxan. We're really adjusted to become familiar with that over naturals. And it desensitizes of what you're talking about. And once you get used to that, accept that, real oud is just overpowering. Real musk is overpowering. It's wow.
Yeah.
I want to speak to the Islam thing really quick. I don't know if this is fact or not. Do they put money towards fragrance as a religion?
Yeah. So there's another. I wouldn't be able to quote it exactly, but I think it was a saying from Umar. And he'd said a person who spends a third of his wealth on fragrance is not being what's the right word for it? Overspending. So it holds a really high importance, and it's often good to smell good. If you're going to the mosque, you wear a perfume. But this causes a little problem for me because most people will wear the synthetic perfume, and I have allergies to this. So when I go to the mosque, sometimes it's like an overwhelming like array of all these different synthetic scents. It's like it's got inside of those cultures that started natural perfumery and took it over with cheap synthetics, and people have become detached from what real perfume was. And that was one of my aims initially when I started perfumery, was to like revive that real perfume and keep trying just to tunnel my way towards that, to eventually make a lot of my own materials and blend them in unique ways to get the most out of the scent, and have it affect the soul as well. So that when you smell it, it's like there's a change in the brain. And this is how I test a lot of my attas when they're ready, is like, did it have that effect? And I'll keep smelling it like, yeah, I've made a good blend, but does it have that effect? And just recently I was making a frankincense atta out of a lot of my own materials, and it smelled really good. And I was like, it's still missing something. And I made a frangipani enfleurage a long time ago in Kenya, and reduced it down to an oil, added a little bit of that, and it just brought it to life, and it had that effect immediately on the mind. Just that little touch of frangipani, it reacted with the frankincense and the musk I'd added and the ambergris and the onycha, and it just brought it alive. And this is such a fascinating thing with natural perfumery, that you're playing with materials and experimenting, and then something just ignites the other materials, and it can be a unique thing that happens each time. And it's like you just get so involved in the scent that at one point it just becomes alive and it starts to stimulate the mind. And this is the process that keeps me going. Like, even if I wasn't selling perfume or anything, I'd still be doing this on my own. I'd still be making oils all the time regardless, because it's become such a interest and a passion that drives me forward to keep making new and interesting scents that have that psychoactive effect on the mind, and not like in a hallucinatory way, or but that it could sedate, or it could energize you, or just put you in a good mood generally.
That is awesome. I don't think you have this stuff either.
What is that? 2002 Siam benzoin. Yeah, that's out of stock as well now. A few really nice aged oils I had for a long time, and eventually sold out of them.
Oh, good.
Yeah, this one's the Thai benzoin, if I remember rightly. There's
it's like honey.
Yeah, it has a very warm kind of oriental scent, if I remember. I don't even know if I have a little bottle of this left myself.
Oh, it's so good. Well, the viscosity is like honey. Well, it's sweet like honey. It's got spice. It does have like a tayud, like the top, only top.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
No
it does, yeah. It has a kind of a lovely array of scent. It covers quite a wide scent band. It's like ambery, sweet vanillic, oriental, powdery even.
Does it turn powdery? From the bottle, it's not that powdery to my nose.
If you mix it with certain materials, like ylang ylang brings out benzoin's powderiness. So if you add a tiny bit of ylang ylang to benzoin, it'll give a really nice powdery effect to a perfume.
What is benzoin?
Benzoin. So benzoin, it's really quite a vague term. Benzoin is a little bit like Laban or olibanum. It's a tree resin. It's generally typified by Styrax tonkinensis, and different varieties of this from different places, but sometimes other materials can be classed as benzoin, especially in India. And there's a lot of kind of materials unknown to me, like tree resins. It's such a big place, and all of them have indigenous names, and they don't tend to make it into the Western perfumery much. And I think even a lot of Indian perfumers and distillers tend to ignore these materials as well. There's such an abundance, but you rarely will find oils of these rare types of benzoin from India. You'll generally find Siam, Thai, trying to think where else. They're generally two of the main places. It eludes me where else. I think Madagascar.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the tree resins I've been getting into is copal.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Go in South America.
Uh-huh.
And that's from a guy I know from Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
Really fancy on that stuff. And
yeah, it's beautiful.
Black and a white.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, black, you can get leather qualities from, it's a start of a leather accord, natural.
Yeah.
Black leather. And then white is like just this light frankincense.
Yeah.
Very light. It's amazing.
It reminds me, it has that almost sunshine quality. I find the white copal, it's just so clear and clean, like a really, it's got honey qualities, but not too much of the sweetness. It's just that very like clean, translucent scent. I got a really interesting one recently, and it's so elusive. It's so mild. I'm looking forward to experimenting with this a little more. It was an old distillation of white copal if I remember right. I don't remember the name of it exactly now, but yeah, it's a really interesting material, and I don't have a lot of it. I'd made one absolute of it, and it was so difficult to manipulate. If you start to pour it, it'll harden during pouring it. You get it on an applicator, and it'll just crystallize on the applicator straight away. And it seals bottles shut. If the littlest bit gets on, it's sealed for a while. It's quite a difficult material.
I used warm water with mine to get it.
Yeah, that's the wise way. Yeah,
and break down.
Uh-huh.
It's all new. This is all new to me. I don't have. Yeah. The ambergris? Do you have more ambergris coming so we can actually show? I would love to show that.
At the moment, I haven't ordered some. I have kind of Oh, sorry, it was just lagging in between us talking there.
Well, it takes a year to do anyway, so you'd have to have a tincture going anyways, right?
Yeah, so I'd made this is like a black ambergris tincture. I'd made the resinoid. I'd made a maceration, another tincture. So I'd got quite a bit in. Used all of the material in my oils. They'll be maturing now, so it's kind of an ongoing process of ordering new material, making all the oils, using all the oils, and going back. But I'll be due to buy some more soon.
You're very conservative with your oils. Like, I'm impressed as far as it's so thought out, because what you have to sell, right?
Yeah.
We're going to get you some more support.
Yeah. It's really hard keeping all of these oils in stock. There's so many of them, and the attas, recently one of the large companies went down in the US. They closed down White Lotus Aromatics.
Well, yeah, so we everything's 20% off till the 15th.
Yes, and I just bought so many oils before this, and then that came, and I was like, oh, can I really afford to spend? But there's some materials that are really difficult to get elsewhere. That White Lotus have, and they've always had such brilliant quality materials. It's wise
They're up the road from me, so not a little bit. We're in the same state.
Yeah. Oh, right. That's interesting.
Yeah. Let's see. You did mention this with benzoin.
What is that? On ylang ylang? Yes. That's the absolute, isn't it?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's really interesting material. It's. I'll let you smell it first before I say what I get from it.
I love it. It's green, floral, wet.
Mm-hmm.
I get a spice from it.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's a darker, it's not as, the absolute definitely is not as, it's not like a ylang note that in most perfumes.
Yeah, it's so different from the essential oil, but it still holds that character. It's almost less floral. Like you said, more green, has some wetness. I get a soapy white note from it. Like a lot of white florals have this kind of very sharp peak that's very interesting, kind of narcotic almost. They'd call it narcotic florals, the white florals, like tuberose, white champaca.
I totally see what you're saying.
Yeah, neroli has that too.
It's a sharp too, like a sharp. It's not patchouli, but kind of got that what you're talking about. That.
Yeah. It's like this spike that you find in all white florals. That's just a super potent peak of white floral.
Yeah, and then the last one I have today is oak moss.
Oak moss. Oh yes, nice. This must be quite an old one as well. I think this is one. Maybe is it your earliest purchase from me or one of the early ones? Yeah.
Each other. I literally went through, and that's why we know each other.
Uh-huh.
People really do not get this. Like it's all about smell. Like I don't want to know who's behind these things.
Uh-huh.
You made all these orders, and then when I sit down with these thousands of things, it's easy for me to filter out the 20 to 40. These are the people I want to know.
Yeah, cool.
Because it's just everything you're saying, I can attest to. of what we're doing.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, this was when I first started smelling stuff. I ran across your stuff and you ruined what creating perfume over here and all it's just better oils that you found.
Uh-huh.
Oh my gosh, I remember. Yeah, this is really good oak moss.
I had quite a few since that one. I got a really interesting one from the US that just had a bit more like citrus, juicy quality to it. Really nice.
From White Lotus?
No, it was from a place called Atta Bazaar. But some of their oils I wasn't totally sure of, but their oak moss beat the other oak mosses I'd encountered. Really, really nice.
That would seem like it'd be an easy material for you to forage and make.
Sorry, oak moss.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it would. Yeah, I think a few different types of moss, because you have cedar moss, oak moss. There's the kind of tree moss in general, Greenland moss as well, but you won't find that over here. Yeah, so really, moss is a lovely note as well. Goes so well.
Have you done your own?
I haven't. No, never made a moss absolute yet.
Why not? I have to ask.
I think it's just getting the time to do everything. Like my immediate things to make, tree resins were the most interesting for me, I think, because there was so many like rare and unusual ones that I'd never seen done as oils. And they were the easiest to get into first for tincturing and making absolutes. So kind of perfecting that process of making it was so much easier. And I've only been making my own materials really like 2 years. About 3 or 4 I started making tinctures, and then only more recently I started making the resinoids. So yeah, it's really just like getting into that area, and there's so many materials to use. Like I did sarsaparilla, tonka bean, mango, unusual things like ginkgo biloba, ginseng, burdock root. So had loads of weird tinctures going at one point, about 100 or so different things, so many different types of honey. That was a thing I was really interested in. Yeah, and then I turned some into absolutes, some didn't work. And then you just realize, yeah, these materials are a bit more difficult. They're kind of more advanced. I'll work up to that. These ones are really easy and achievable. I'll focus on these for now and then build up towards, like florals, I think are probably the hardest. Take the most time to make them, and to get it into an absolute form. You need a lot of material because the petals impart so little of their oil. So if you're doing a tincture, the best way is to refresh your florals. Like say if you're doing rose petals, put rose petals in your ethanol, leave it for either 1 day or 2 days, and take them all out and replace them again with fresh rose petals, and continue that for months and months to get the strongest scent and the most kind of pronounced scent from it, and then evaporate that down. But sorry, well, it's not really an enfleurage. It's not really an enfleurage. This is more like an advanced tincture. An enfleurage is where you put the flower petals into a fat or a wax. Yeah, and that would absorb the scent.
It's the same product.
Sorry?
Isn't it?
Similar, yeah, it's similar.
I didn't know they did those tinctures every day. That's nuts.
Yeah. I discovered this was one lady who was doing it, and she'd made a lily of the valley perfume from a nearby meadow of lily of the valley, and she described how she did it by replacing the flowers. I don't remember if it was every 24 hours or 48, but she said she ended up with such a strong... Sorry?
Is she in the US?
I think so, yeah.
That black cypress that I got, I think I'm ordering from her.
Oh, right. Yeah, it would be interesting.
Because I was going to get... Okay, Lily of the Valley. I was promised by another guy that it could never be made.
Okay.
And then I saw her stuff.
Yeah.
What? You're a natural perfumer. Can it be made?
Yeah, for sure. I think I've not done it, but there's other people who've done it, and I believe what they've done. So it's just the method, really. It's like people said for a long time, you get no true jasmine essential oil. It was one of the myths I encountered when I came into natural perfumery, is that there's no jasmine essential oil. And then you go to India and you find that the rough distillations, they slow distill the flowers, so the temperature is a lot lower. It collects a lot more volatile high notes. It's done over a longer period, and the quantity at the end is a lot less than if it was higher temperature distillation, which would destroy a lot of the volatile high notes. So a lot of myths that you encounter tend to be broken, and that's an interesting thing with natural perfumery, is that you discover that as you go along.
I was just talking to another natural perfumer last week, and we were going over, scientists saying different things and this and that, and we're like the ones disproving those things, and I'm in love with that, and it's part of the passion that keeps me going. That and science backs us. Science is backing the stuff we do. I'm finding the right people. I'll feature them. You're one of the right people, but we're only on the beginning, the precipice of what this is, this natural.
Yes.
The person I was talking to, what do you think about this? They were saying they want to see a day where natural perfumery gets to the point where you're just going out into your own personal backyard and creating materials and wearing them. And, it wouldn't be a full-on composition master, but it'd be like food. It'd be an enhancement to your life, just wearing materials out of your backyard.
Yeah. It's the technology's there to do it, and people are doing it. Some people, there's a really interesting lady in the US. She's on Instagram. Her name's Jade. I think her company's Jade Forest Company. And she has a huge garden, and she makes a lot of raw materials from her garden. So it's pretty much exactly what you describe. And there's more people doing that. There's a guy in Ireland, goes by the name of Botanical Carl. He's got a really nice setup going. Got a nice, I think it's a Moroccan copper pot for distilling, and made a really nice business out of that. It's not quite all your backyard stuff, but he has experimented with that. So that there's lots of people out there doing it.
If you remember, can you send me her link? Jade Forest.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, she's got a really nice little thing going.
Yeah, I'm all about connecting with people like that. Anyways, for a first video, first introduction, that's about an hour. We'll keep them about an hour.
Sure.
And I think we'll start with A, and if we have to go to B in that video, we'll go to B, we'll go to C, whatever we have to do.
Yeah. Sure.
Randomly talking. I want to make 5-10 minutes and keep talking about this book. Alex, I hope it's something you put on Indiegogo or something, because we have a big army behind me that will support you. Awesome. Just make the levels, you know what I mean? Just make the levels like, oh, hey, I'll give you and don't charge more. What if you did, this is just off the fly, he doesn't know I'm doing this. What if you had the book with a select amount of materials as
that'd be really good. Yeah,
part of
for
the
sure.
logo package.
Yeah, I think even doing perhaps like you could buy the book on its own. You could buy the book with a basic starter pack of materials, or you could buy the book with an advanced pack of materials.
Well, you know how those sites work, right? You have all the levels of what you can offer, so you get starter money, so we can get going quicker.
Yeah, for sure. That it's just the time taken to go through all the materials. It's so all encompassing. It's such a huge thing. I mean, agarwood, this on its own can take years. So I'm going to have to condense this down. Like some of those huge materials are going to need.
Or invite a friend for that section.
Yeah, I have. I've spoke with Joseph from Rising Phoenix about agarwood. A little, there's some other people who can give me input on like the Chinese medicine side of things. So I'm asking people, I'm speaking with people and connecting, and I'll get information on materials that I don't know much about, or very rare materials that are quite difficult to source.
I mean, sandalwood would be nice to get some people right in my sort of talk about.
Yeah, yes.
Well, the big controversy is I get these American people saying, "Oh, well, I don't want to endanger the forest over there." And I'm like, I got friends over there that say quite the opposite. Like their economy totally needs it, and they're trying to revive the forest so it can reproduce again. And then they're taken aback, like, "Oh," I'm like, So
there's a lot of complex, touchy matters within natural perfumery that can be addressed.
Well, in a positive, I mean, I can already see it's going to be positive, but that would be nice. I know some people here that probably jump on that right away. So just throwing that out there. Anyways, it was an honor to have you on the channel, and
a real honor to be on the channel, Brandon.
I'll go through all these natural materials. We'll see. Hopefully, I don't know. We'll see how the first one goes, and we'll come up with better ideas and better ways to do things.
Sure. Yeah.
Yes. An honor, Abdullah, Mellifluence. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brandon.
All right. Take care.
Great. Take care, my friend.